What's up, everyone? Chris Saballero here, co-host of the Inside EMS podcast with Kelly Grayson. New episodes come out every Friday. Today, we're going to talk about this month's leadership article, which is really based around strategic thinking. As leaders, it's paramount, it's vital that we have a good understanding of strategy. And vision is where we're going, strategy is how we're going to get there, and then culture is the behavior of the organization en route to reaching the vision. But as a leader, we need to be able to have good strategic thinking. Strategic thinking is all about the reasoning process that involves the development of plans and goals and actions that can lead to the desired future outcomes. Now, just because you're a strategic thinker doesn't mean that you're going to get things right all the time. But this is really where your critical thinking skills come in. This is where the organization really needs to be able to say that we thought it through and we tried to figure out everything that was going to be needed to make this, to make an informed decision, to optimize the resources that we need to, and to make certain that we have good competitive advantage and long-term success. So when we think about strategic thinking, I want to give you several key components that includes being a good strategic thinker. First off is we need to have a good vision and goals. When we think about organizations, and when I speak to, different organizations and companies inside and outside of EMS, I always ask the same question. Who amongst you has a vision statement? And everybody will raise their hand and they'll be so proud that they have a vision statement. But then I'll ask them, who can come up here and recite it for me? And that's when all the hands go down. There's a lot of organizations, and maybe yours, that has a good vision statement, but they don't know what it is. If you don't know what the vision of the organization is, or if you don't know the vision of your project, or if you don't know the vision of your program, how do you know when you're going to reach success? And once you have a good vision, it gives you the opportunity to develop goals to reach the vision. I do a lot of teaching on developing individual vision statements, and then you develop goals to reach the vision that's going to help you get to where you want to be. But at the heart of strategic thinking lies a clear and compelling vision for the future of what you want to be able to achieve. It needs to be able to be a well-defined purpose and a set of goals that are going to get you there. Now that you have a vision and now that you have goals, this gives you the opportunity to strategically think about those speed bumps and those hurdles and those things that come up on your journey to reaching the vision. So vision and goals are very, very important for you to have good strategic thinking. Number two is the environmental scanning. When I say that, this is really about what's happening inside your organization. This is about, the economic structure of where you are, the political structure of where you are. This is really taking your environment into account when you now start to think about being a strategic thinker. If you're having problems, making response time compliance, and you say, well, we just need to add more resources, but you don't have the money to add more resources, you don't have the trucks to add more resources, you don't have the equipment to add more resources, this is where you have to take what's going on inside the organization or the environment around you to make things the best. Next is your critical thinking. As you now start to take all these different pieces of information, you need to be able to sit down and possess strong critical thinking skills, because you need to be able to think about the situation, you need to evaluate the situation, you need to take the information in and very objectively think about how you're going to put this plan into play. Or now that you have this information, what does it mean for you to now make the necessary decisions that you need to make as a strategic thinker? Number four is resource allocation. Strategic thinking is all about developing the need of the resources to make this happen. This is the allocation of the resources that you find, that you now know what you can use. Back then, if we go back to step number two, we talked about the environmental scanning. Do we have the trucks? Do we have the equipment? Do we have the people? But now when you start to think about number four, resource allocations, you know you have the trucks, you know you have the equipment, you know you have the people. So how do you take all that information and how do you put it into prioritizing the initiatives for the project or the purpose of what you want to try to do? Next is risk management. One of the things that's truly important, and I think in EMS, one of the things that we know well enough is that our job is risky. People go into homes, our people go into homes at 3 o'clock in the morning that they may not come out of. So EMS is very risk conscious, and we try to be as risk adverse as we can. But essentially, a strategic plan or strategic thinking, we have to be able to ensure that we take the risks and the uncertainties into account as we're making decisions. We can't just say, oh, let's go ahead and go into this neighborhood where they're having shootings and stabbings, and our paramedics and EMTs aren't going to be safe. And we have to be able to take those things into account. Number six is we need to think about the long-term perspectives. Remember, we are on a journey to reach a vision. We have goals that are helping us reach a vision, and everything that we need to do is based on achieving those goals. And unlike tactical or short-term thinking, strategic thinking is all about the future. And we need to be able to ensure that we're making the determinations necessary that will help us to be successful in the future. And when we think about the long-term perspective, it avoids the short-sightedness that we sometimes have to say, let's just make a knee-jerk decision, right? We can't make a knee-jerk decision. We've got to be able to be more focused than we need to. Then we have to be focused in doing that. Next is we need to be able to think about our innovation and creativity. Sometimes as a strategic thinker, we need to be able to embrace innovation. We need to be able to be creative in problem solving. We need to be able to ensure that we have all the things necessary. One of the things that I talk about all the time is in EMS, it seems that we can be reactionary. We need to be able to start to be anticipatory. Instead of waiting for someone to tell us, we need to be able to think about the future and think about our practice and think about where we're going and figure out what we're going to need to make this happen. Rather than be responsive to what's happening, we need to be able to be anticipatory to what's happening. So those are our seven, components of being a strategic thinker. The importance of strategic thinking is it gives us great competitive advantage. We need to be able to ensure that when we think about being strategic, that we gain and maintain the competitive edge. Now, in EMS, are we really competing against other EMS agencies? Well, sometimes we are. Sometimes we have the only EMS agency in town, but we need to be able to think about our business in the sense of maintaining that competitive edge. Just because we have a contract inside a city for exclusive rights doesn't mean they're going to keep us, right? We've got to be able to make sure that we keep and maintain the competitive edge. Sometimes I think we forget that. We need to be able to have good resource optimization. Being careful and considering the resources that we need to allot allows strategic thinking to ensure that the organizations make the most of their limited resources. Think about it. We've been hearing about for years, especially since the COVID incident, that we don't have the resources to do our job. Well, with the resources that we have, are we able to say we're going to increase, trucks on the street during peak time by 10? Well, we don't have the equipment. We don't have the people. So it does give us the opportunity to be a little bit more focused on our resource optimization and using the resources we have. Just because we don't have the trucks and we don't have the people doesn't mean that we don't make a decision. We just have to be able to make a decision with what we're able to utilize for our success. Number three is adaptability. Strategic thinking promotes adaptability. We have to be able to know that the plans that we have are dynamic. Have you ever developed goals and then something got in the way of reaching your goals? And, a lot of times we just put those goals by the wayside. No. We've got to be persistent. We've got to be perseverant. We got to have good perseverance. We got to have good adaptability, that we need to polish the goals to reach the vision. We always have to consider number four is sustainable growth. Sustainable growth is central. It's central to the objective of being a good strategic thinker. By looking beyond the short term, it allows us now to think about how do we grow. So we know that we have a problem with getting resources, getting, people into our organization, but we still have to be able to grow. How are we going to manage that? Number five is effective decision making. When we think about being a strategic thinker, sometimes we got to pull the trigger on the things that we decide. And a lot of times decision making is something that doesn't come very, very quickly. Are you someone that makes decisions quick? Maybe you want to take in more information. Maybe you want to mull it over for a couple days. That's okay. But we need to have effective decision making because our people are looking for those those decisions to come. Next is alignment. We've got to be able to have a good alignment with our team, with our organization. We have to be able to let them know why we're doing what we're doing. The vision that we have as an organization is everyone's vision. Everybody needs to buy into the vision, and everybody has responsibility in their role to achieve that vision. So everybody has to be on the same sheet of music. And then number 7, it creates good leadership. Leaders who possess strategic thinking are more likely to inspire confidence and loyalty amongst their teams. So when we think about being a good strategic thinker, sometimes we can be overwhelmed and sometimes we can have stress and sometimes, but you know what? This is why you're in the position that you're in. And however that, asking yourselves the key questions on how to clarify strategic thinking. So what do we have to ask ourselves to make sure that we're successful? And number 1 is we've got to be able to know what our aspirations are. Your goals, your strategies, your actions should align with your desired destination. So everything that we do in an organization has to be based on the vision. Where do you currently stand? Evaluate the current situation. We need to be able to invest, to assess our skills and our resources. So this is going to be important for you to grow good strategic thinking, and you need to be able to understand your network and people that you can talk to. I got to tell you, even at this stage in my career, when things are happening around me, I have people that I call to say, what do you think about this? Or what would you do in this situation? Or this is what I'm dealing with. What do you think? And it's great to have that, know where you stand and know how you need to be able to move forward. And then you need to be able to balance your success and your enjoyment for the job. You took this position for some reason, and you need to be able to know that as a strategic thinker, you are bringing the vision of the organization, forward. You are bringing the vision of the organization to fruition, and you need to be able to understand that this is something that you chose to do, and you should be proud of that, and you should balance your success, and you should know that this is something to be, you should enjoy and you should be happy about. Now, does that always happen? It doesn't, because we're always faced with stress. We're always faced with people who don't support us. We're always faced with challenges within the workforce, with the culture of the workforce. But you know what? When you get to where you want to be, know that you're in the position that you chose to be in. You wanted to be a leader, and find some enjoyment of that. So that's this month's article on being a strategic thinker. If you have different skills or if you have different practices to become a strategic thinker, go ahead and put them in the comments. I'm Chris Cebollero. I want to thank you for joining in this month, and we'll come to you next month with another great article on your elements of leadership.